Good morning, church. How are you? I know that you're doing good because you are, without a doubt, don't dispute it, don't doubt it, don't debate it, that you are children of God, heading to God's place. That's where you're going. That's where you're going to be. That's why you're here this morning. This is a God-ordained moment. The remarkable thing about it is that every time you have been in the house of God, every time, not sometimes, a lot of times, God has a record of that. And every bit of it pleases him. We're glad that you're here. We're glad that we've been blessed. Looking out, I think the Pendergrass family is with us. Where's the Pendergrass family? They're here somewhere. Right there, right there. Glad you're in the house. So thankful that you're in the house this morning. Eddie and I were able to go and retrieve them, and we were rejoicing all the way that they are with us. And so we want you to know who we are, not only by our words, but our deeds. Amen. That we are folks who love to do right by folks. So we're thankful that you're here this morning. Sister Deborah, we're glad that you're back with us. Fills our heart that you're back in the house with us. Sister Angie, the Lord knows I'm glad you're back. I've been in fasting and prayer, and you're back in the house. Makes me look good when you're in the house. I need you next to me. Help me look better. So we're glad that you're in the house this morning. Others of you who may have been away, we're glad that you're with us. Linda and others, Danny, you're back with us. And Linda and Travis, we're glad you're in the house. And this lovely couple right here, glad you're in the house with us. Anytime you're away, we miss you. So we're glad that you're with us. Now, my sister in life, my biological sister, also my sister in Christ, reached out to me this week, and we had a brief moment of prayer together. But she was calling attention to this focus on numbers, and one of the things that we spoke into your hearing last week about God's formula, about making heaven your home. Turn right and keep straight. That's the formula. Turn right and keep straight. One of the challenges, though, is that when you turn right way, you are moving progressively, strategically, spiritually in the direction that God is leading you in, and it will be a challenge for you that he will bring you to the wilderness. The wilderness. Biblically speaking, there are different metaphors or symbolic kinds of meanings of the wilderness, but let me tell you two, because they're going to play out in this second part of Numbers. Maybe it's our experience that sometimes the wilderness is about penalty. Penalty. Maybe I need to be in the wilderness for a moment to be penalized. because God disciplines every child that he loves. He will indeed direct me to the wilderness. It's not intended to be a forever experience, but sometimes it is penalty. Something that needs to be set right, something that needs to be done right, something that needs to be increased, something needs to be decreased. And God gets my attention in the wilderness. But there's a flip side of that. This is what this new generation is going to teach us. Sometimes it's about preparation. As he prepares us and readies us, equips us, educates us, empowers us for the next big move or destiny in our life. 40 years in the wilderness. God deals with us in the ideal and the real. In the ideal of God, everyone who came out of Egypt, in the ideal of God, should have been in Canaan. Every one of them. In the ideal. For it is not God's will that any should perish, but all come. That's the ideal will of God. But God also deals with us in the real. Because sometimes reality is that I'm not with the program of God in the wilderness. Sometimes I don't buy into what God is trying to teach me in the wilderness. Sometimes I descend. This is what you're going to see play out in the first generation, into doubts and fears, which is a gateway to defiance. And I can introduce into my life some very bad outcomes. It's not God's ideal will, but it's the real. Factual, actual experience that some will choose to live out. So that first generation died in the wilderness. Egypt represents shame, shackles, sin, both physically for that generation and spiritually for all children. God brings us out of Egypt, the bondage. That's the old life. That's the past life. We're on our way to Canaan, which is a symbolism for glory, but he says we've got to spend some time preparing you, readying you in wilderness experiences so that you can learn the lessons that you would not learn without the wilderness experience. You won't get it. You really won't. You think you will, but you won't. You won't at least get conviction. Maybe you'll have mental assent. The devils also believe, but they don't obey. Maybe you will acknowledge certain things you believe, but there is a deeper conviction, persuasion that comes in the wilderness. One generation went down, didn't come back up. The new generation learned the lessons in the wilderness, and that is the generation that served Joshua, God, all the days of their life, and even the elders that succeeded Joshua. I want to look at it. This morning. Sometimes in the wilderness you'll deal with doubts and discouragements. Nothing wrong with that. But what you do with it is telling. I know that God will direct you to Numbers as required reading when you are descending and imploding and plummeting into a wilderness experience that God says, in all honesty, I can't do nothing with that. I can't do nothing with that. I've got to get your head in a better space and place. I hope you're willing. I know it's not comfortable. I know it's not easy. I know it's not the thing you've been praying for. I know it's not where you want to be, but it's where God has placed you that you might be prepared for what God has promised. It's required reading. So here it is. Information, we looked at that. Now we look at the instruction and insights, part 2. We'll wrap up the book. First thing is this. The first 11 chapters of Numbers, we're doing this study through the 66 books of the Bible. We'll come to Numbers, the 4th book of the Bible, the 4th book of the Pentateuch. Only one more book in the law, Torah, is Deuteronomy. Now, first 11 chapters, God is speaking. Maybe Moses, of course, is the vicar, the voice. He verbalizes, but God is really the author. He's giving them, listen, these are my commandments, these are my instructions, these are my admonitions, these are the ways that I will be guiding you. 11 chapters. Now, the instructions found in these 11 chapters began in the Exodus 1, here it is, the second year after the Exodus. This is when this is unfolding, the second year after the Exodus. Covers about an entire year. They just parked it right there at Mount Sinai. Remember I told you that God will park you so that he can place you. He will park you so that he can place you in the right spot. So watch this. Notice where God speaks. Notice where he speaks. He speaks to Moses from the tabernacle, the place of worship, so that he says that I want you to center all of what you understand regarding the presence of God and the power of God and the promises of God around the place of the worship. I want you to know that in worship, in the gathered community of worship, you're going to receive what I want you to receive. That's ancient Israel. I think for us today, everything you need to know as far as my presence, my power, and my promises. Right here. It's centered around the tabernacle. Centered around the tabernacle. I think that is intentional by God. Now, go deeper with me. Chapter 1, 2 through 46, God orders the numbering of the nation. The nation is numbered. Look at a splice in that text. Chapter 1, 45 through 46. So all who were numbered of the children of Israel from 20 years above old, all who were able to go to war were 603,550. That's significant. Let me talk about that just for a moment. The numbering, what's it about? It's a call to belief. That's the first thing. I want you to start counting heads, God says. How many souls came down to Egypt? 70. 70. So Joseph, his generation. Jacob. But you're way beyond that number. Your numbers exceed, and in fact, hundreds of years earlier, he had spoken to Abram. Now he's speaking it to Isaac and Jacob. Your descendants shall be as the sand of the sea. Hundreds of years. And they're living the manifestation. So my brother, every time they got beyond the number 70, if you can just follow me, they were seeing the manifestation. They were seeing the manifestation. They were seeing the manifestation. That God is growing, God is increasing, God is expanding. He's keeping his word. We're becoming an enormous nation, not just a family clan that was welcomed into Egypt, but you're becoming bigger than Egypt, so much so that they step in to subjugate you. It's all a part of the plan of God. because Egypt is not your destiny. It speaks to the reality of your past, but doesn't speak to God's plan for your future. So it's about beliefs. Look at the head count. 603,000 above 20. Putting it all together, as we've said, most people have estimated there are about 2 million or more folks right now. That's a lot of folks. Eddie was telling me how many people in one of the cities of Brazil. Think about 1 million, 2 million. That's a sizable city. Imagine this is a city of folks. That's what's playing out. Now, watch this now. But the numbering is not only about beliefs, it's about battles. Notice what he says. From 20 years old who were able, mistype, to go to war. 3 things God says is going to define your success. Hear me now. This is being spoken to the old generation. This is being spoken into their ears, that first generation. I want you to have a success plan. I think it relates to us today. 3 things: true worship. Get worship right. Get worship right. Secondly, establish beliefs. Things that you believe and really believe and you're not willing to compromise on. And a readiness for battles. There's going to be some battles. Christianity is a part of that supreme trifecta: worship, beliefs, and battles. You get worship right, you get your beliefs right, and get your battles right. That's what it means to turn right and keep straight. But watch this now. Watch it unfold. Numbers chapter 1, 2 through 24, that's the numbering of the people. Numbers 3, 1 through the 4th chapter are the responsibilities of the priest. Bring the tribe of Levite near and present them before Aaron and the priest, that they may serve him, and they shall attend to his needs. I got that underlined bold. And to the needs of the people. One of the things we've studied in our life groups is about we being kingdoms of priests. What do priests do? They focus on the needs of the people, spiritually speaking. The prophet represents God to the people, and the priests represent the people to God. That's his role. Now, what these priests are doing under God's guidance, he's setting up a line of connection to keep the people where they need to be with God. Let's get a system established where you can stay connected to me. Remember, you're not pagans. You're not idolaters. You're not just out there winging it. You are an exclusive people. He's going to bring that in. In fact, he brings it in this next slide. Chapter 1, 2 through 24, the number of the people. We must be in the number. Wherever God's people are, that's where you want to be. Wherever God is doing a head count of his people, you want to be in that group. Wherever God is saying, that's my folk, you want to be among those folks. He's doing a head count right now. You don't want to be outside of the number. You don't want to even be close to the group. You want to be in the group. You don't want to just hear about the group. You want to just read about the group. You don't want to even say mama's good that she's in the group. You want to be knee-deep among the group. They're in the group. Amen. But watch this now. Watch it unfold. Watch the responsibilities of the priests. We must know our God-ordained calling. Then, chapter 5 through 10, this is the outline, he talks about their sanctification, separateness. You know, there's an outside world that they're in. They're not the only folks on earth, but they are the exclusive property of God. So he says, let's make that official. Let me tell you something about it, church. We might as well admit it. I know. This may sound a bit funny to say, but it's true. When we come up out of the waters of baptism, we're coming up from Egypt, and we're ready to live the new life. We still got some Egyptian stuff in us, okay? So God says, I want to sanctify you right now. I want to set you apart right now. I want you to start making a line of demarcation between where you've been to where you are and where you're going. So, three things, the Nazarite vow, chapter 6, 1 through 27, that was a voluntary way of just saying, I am dedicated and consecrated to God. Sometimes it was a temporal, momentary thing. Sometimes in Scripture it stuck, as in the case of Samson. It was kind of a divine anointing of the Nazarite. But secondly, chapter 7, all the way to chapter 9, he's back to worship. This is how you sanctify me. This is how you distinguish me from the world. The world is not worshiping God this morning. You are. That's a part of your exclusivity from the past life to who you are now. And then chapter 9 through 10 is God's guidance. Now, what's the trifecta? Be dedicated, devoted, and consecrated to God. That's personal. Personal. It can be congregational, but that's personal. That's what you do on an individual basis. That count me in with God. And there are a lot of things you do on a weekly, daily basis to make sure that your headspace is right with God and that you are indeed sanctified with God. Then you come together on the Lord's Day, we worship the Lord, and then we stay under the guidance of God. But watch this. Watch this. There's a transition that begins to take place. I hope you're following me. Chapters 10 through 25, everything changes. Not for the good, but for the worse. He gives them the marching orders. Israel's on the move. They haven't moved for a year. They've been parked right there at Sinai. On the 20th day of the second month in the year, that the cloud was taken up from above. Remember, cloud by day, fire by night. God says, let's move. Let's move from here. The tabernacle of the testimony and the children of Israel, here it is, set out from the wilderness. Come on, we're going to Canaan. We're on the way to the ideal. But this is where the first generation is going to say, we're not with the program. It's going to manifest itself right in Numbers. It's going to come to fruition right before your reading eyes. Here it is. You're going to see in Numbers 10 through 12 back-to-back failures. Moses is writing the history. Who is he writing the book to? Primarily to the second generation, because they need to understand, how do they explain their wilderness? What did we do? We're 40 years later getting into Canaan. That's about a 2-month trip, not 40 years. So what's up with this? Well, they need to know what happened. And they're reading it in this memorial. First of all, chapter 11, 1 through 9 is the failure of the people. This is not the first time. Watch it now. There's a spirit of forgetting, ingratitude, and complaining. It's just it's almost a way of how they did their walk with God. In chapter 11, 10 through 15, this is insightful. This is insightful. There's even the failure of Moses. Let's call it what it is. He's writing the history. He tells his own misstep and mistake. Didn't omit it. He says in this section, I'm putting it in words, but this is what he says, that I'm tired of dealing with this hard-hearted people. He doesn't stand with faith. He descends into frustration. Wilderness can do that to you. Let me tell you something about God. He'll give you grace for your frustration, but he'll only guide you by faith. Can I say that again? He'll give you grace for your frustration, but God says, I won't guide you in frustration. You ain't going to pull me into that, because I ain't frustrated about nothing. I'm on my game. But I will guide you by faith. But Moses implodes into something that doesn't look like faith. He begins to put God in the stand. What's up with you? Why are you doing this? How do you do this? Can you get me? In fact, he says something. Just take me out right now. I'm done. Then 12, 1 through 16, it's just playing out, Travis. It's playing out. Miriam and Aaron lose their way. They lose their way. Moses, now Miriam. Two things. What's up with this marriage? He marries an Ethiopian woman, and I said, what's up with that? They got a problem with that. It's in the text. Indisputable, undeniable. I don't know all that's going on. We can speculate, but that's what he did. And they said, I think they must have whispered it out first, and then they brought it to fame. Man, is he going to really do this? Then, watch this. Watch this. This is Miriam. She saw the work of God in the baby, in the Nile. She saw all of that. She understands the hand of God is on her big brother, on her little brother. She gets it. She probably was the one, surely, that took him and brought him, and she must have known God's hand is on this boy. He's now, after 40 years in the backside of desert, come back. He is the vicar of God. He is the voice of God. He's the chosen one. Aaron is a sidekick alone. But they, for the first time, said that, are you the only one that God can use? Who died and left you in charge? That's what they're selling. That's what they're telling him. What's up with your leadership? Are you the only one that God is speaking to? So you see in chapters 10 through 12 this back-to-back failure, and then in chapters 13 and 14 the whole thing implodes. What happens in 13 and 14 seals the fate of that first generation. They went too far. They pushed the envelope a bit too much. Even a God of mercy and grace. A failure of doubts and fears that changed everything. Chapter 13, 1 through 33, God says, okay. Check out the land to see that it's everything that I promised. Go out and check it out. When they come back, mistype, should be 13, 32 to 33. And watch this. They gave the children of Israel a bad report. Underline that. That's seismic. That changes everything. We saw giants. Giants. We were like grasshoppers in our own sight, and so we were in their sight. Giants. Saw people who were bigger than us. What do you do with that wilderness moment when you see something that seems bigger than you, but God has already shown you that if he can take care of Pharaoh, he can take care of, you follow me? He's already shown you what he can do. Pharaoh went down. He's the world power. He's the potentate that rules the world in human terms. There's nothing bigger than Pharaoh. If Pharaoh can fall, giants can fall. Amen? But they're not into faith. They're into doubts and fear. That's what your wilderness experience will get into if you're not careful. Now watch this. Here it is. All the congregation lifted up their voices and cried, and the people were. Could you imagine what it is to have nearly 2 million people crying? Can you imagine the sound of that? It was not a good moment. We were just down with the grandson. I'm so glad to have a grandson, but wait a minute. I did something, I don't know why I did that, Angie. I'm so sorry. I had me, Andy Great said I had me an ID. I had me an ID that I was going to wake him up at 5 o'clock one morning. I just wanted to go in there and play with him. His mother and dad were on vacation, and that's when my fun began. Man, he played for a while, but then, look, I wish I could have recorded it. You know what I'm talking about. Wait a minute, okay. Angel said, "Van, don't do this again, okay?" That's one baby. That's one voice. This is millions. And you know, even the children, imagine what they do. They're hollering, the parents are hollering out. This is a crazy sound. It's going through the whole areas all night. Watch this now. Moses and Aaron were in Egypt. That's what they say. Our death in Egypt is better than this. That's what they say. We don't know anything about what God is doing. That's what they say. And here it is. We knew new leaders. You know what happens? Two giants of the faith stand up and speak out. But Joshua the son of Nun and Caleb the son of Jephunneh, who were among those who had spied out the land, tore their clothes. If the Lord delights in us, then he will bring us into this land. Only do not rebel against the Lord. Don't do this. I know it's hard. I know it's difficult. I know you're tired of waiting. I know. I get it. I know it. I know you're dealing with some stuff on your job. I know you're dealing with a marriage that's not right. I know you're working through some parental issues. I know you've got, you listen. I know it's hard. I know the doctor says some things and it's a wilderness moment. But don't rebel against God. And all the congregation said, kill them. Let's take them out. Well, here it is. God says, I'm out. I'm done. I'm going enough with you all. Just as you have spoken in my hearing, so I will do. You said you're going to die in the wilderness. That's how it's going to play out now. You pronounced your own fate. The carcasses you have complained against me, the carcasses of you who have complained against me shall fall in the wilderness, except for Caleb the son of Jephunneh and Joshua the son of Nun. You shall by no means enter the land. So here it is, chapters 14 to 20. You know what happens? They go further into rebellion. You can read it. I won't take the time to go through that. It's about 5 things. You'll just play it out. Come on, we leave these things on the internet. You can go back and watch them. I pray that you will, but for the sake of time, that's about 5 things here. They go deeper into rebellion. They plummet. They're going off the deep end now. Well, I want to give you this. I want to give you some insights to take home with you. This is wilderness stuff. Everybody you know that's strong in faith has had wilderness moments. Everybody you look up and admire and say, that's a strong woman of God, has had wilderness moments. Every man of God that you say, Lord, if I can just get at his level, that woman of God, I can get at their level, they've had wilderness moments. That's what you do with them. Here's the first thing. If we want to receive God's best, we must keep our lives under God's absolute authority. They did not want to live under the authority of God. It cost them. Paid a terrible cost. If you want to receive God's best, we must keep our lives under God's absolute authority. Authority. Love, mercy, grace, yes, but authority. His rule, his reign. Sometimes the battle that you've got to fight is about God's authority. Just keep it real. Sometimes when I'm speaking to myself, where is the love? Where is the mercy? Where is the grace? Where is the redemption? Where is the deliverance? And God says, where is the surrender to the authority? That's all it's about. But there's something else here. The choice is missing our destiny, trapped in the wilderness, or moving forward to what God has in mind. That's the choice. It's binary. It's not. Keep it simple. Don't make it complicated. I'm not in Canaan. I'm in the wilderness. Maybe I'm going through something that's heavy, that's big. God says we can handle it. We can handle it. Keep the authority first. I'm with you. I've got your back. But the choice is you're going to die in this wilderness. You're going to move on to what I have in mind for your life. You're going to die in this wilderness, man. They're going to bury your body. And you're going to go into eternity. What I missed, what I could have had. Or you're going to move on to what God has in mind for your life. The God who delivered us must be the God who we allow to continue to direct us daily. Get up in the morning and say, God, this is your day. Have it your way. This is your day. Have it your way. Situationally, it's the situation you find yourself in. Situationally. And here it is. And seasonally. Spring, summer, fall, winter. God, you take this season, make it what it's to. If this lady and I live a few more years, we would have come through all 4 seasons together. I don't make us any different. We would come through all spring, summer, fall, and winter. And some of you know exactly what I'm talking about. What are you doing? What are you doing in the summer season of life? How do you handle the summer season? God says, let me be. I said it again. I said it again. Summer things heat up. Stuff gets heavy, hot, difficult. Like God says, I can handle it. The spring season just started off. You talked to some in the spring season. Some of you are sending children off this year, during the season of spring just started off. Reminding them, you got to make God real in the. You got to find out what does seek ye first the kingdom mean in the spring of your life, not the fall that's coming. Some are in the fall of life. What does that mean for you? What does that mean for you and God in the fall? And then some are in the winter. What does that mean? Let God be the God over all of that. Who delivered us must be the God who directs us. If God delivers, he's got to direct. Dance with the God who got you there. You don't need a different mate. You don't need a new dance partner. Well, don't try to outthink God. Do what it takes, all that it takes to be surrendered to his unlimited wisdom. Say that, God, you know everything about everything all the time. I am trying to find out what you already know. Speak it to his hearing. I can't outthink you. I can't outsmart you. I can't outwit you, God. Help me to know that your plan is right. All that it takes to be surrendered. And the first generation, my brother, they didn't do any of this. They're bad seeds. I'm not being crude. Maybe that would have been me. I told you last week, the only 2 good seeds were Moses, but I'm talking about going forward were Joshua and Caleb. The rest of them were bad seeds. Bad seeds. Didn't make it. So here it is in final. We're done. Here it is. Come on. I gotta leave you with this. Thank you. That's right, my brother. At some point in our faith journey, we'll have to face the devil's big lie. I thank you for take that snapshot. That's a good picture. The devil's big lie. Here it is. Here it is. Here it is. Here's the devil's big lie. It's a biggity big lie. It's a big old big time lie. That the God who has been good is no longer good for you. Wow. That's a lie. He's going to get you to try to buy into that. Okay, he's good. But he ain't good for you right now. And you're going to have to fight through that. So that generation died off in the wilderness, 40 years going nowhere, and the other generation steps onto the scene, and Moses speaks to them in Deuteronomy. And they're going to get some new marching orders in Deuteronomy. We're going to look at that, the second giving of the law. And I pray when we uncover that book, you will receive that that's what I really need to hear. Because I braved the wilderness. Now I need a whole new admonition. Take me further into the book of Joshua. So this brother's going to come and stand and lead us. By the way, we're glad to have you back with us as well. And you were with us this last week. Good to have you with us. Let's stand together, and this brother's going to lead us in this invitational song.